Now, performance-wise, this is also something that I kind of still like about this phone. It has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 845 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 630 GPU, and 4 gigabytes of RAM on all the models, which there's 3 different models of, which I'm surprised about. And I still feel like the performance of this phone is pretty decent. Now, I feel like this phone got way better with Android 10. I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks that, but when I got the Android 10 update and I eventually went through and used the phone and all that stuff, it was a solid update for this specific device. And I think the biggest thing that this phone came with were the gestures. And I said this in my mid-2020 review as well. This phone, just having that extra gesture capability, really added that much more flavor to this device, and it added so much more fluidity. I hated clicking those buttons all the time. It just felt so archaic. With the gestures now, that actually made this phone feel that much more smoother, even though it kind of wasn't. It may have been like placebo or whatever, but that was a huge advancement in my opinion, and that was something that I really do like. It's funny because that's something so small, but in my opinion was something so big, and the performance sector really nice. Really changed my opinion on the performance vector. Now, if you're playing games or all that stuff that we always talk about, you're going to be pretty much okay for the most part. There's really nothing that's going to be horrible unless you're trying to multitask a lot within one game to the other. And that's probably the biggest improvements that we've seen in the last, several generations of Android phones. We went from 4 gigs to 6 gigs to 8 gigs and like 10 to 12 gigs for like a baseline model. And now I think the OnePlus 8s or 8Ts tap out at 12 gigs too, which is really cool. So for a majority of things you're going to do day to day, if you're not a heavy power user and you're not trying to, multitask a bunch of apps and all that stuff in the background, you will probably be okay for the most part. It's going to be slower here and there. The S20s came out. I compared this phone to that phone as well. And that was probably the biggest downside was the RAM management portion. But when you're opening apps and stuff, I think you're going to be okay. Loading apps is going to be slower, but it's like expected. So I think performance wise, even now in 2020, in the later part of 2020, you're probably going to be okay with it. Now, I probably, I'm not going to say it's as fast as something like a S20, even a Note 20, or even like a S10. I feel like that phone was faster, but you're going to probably be okay. As long as you're not expecting crazy amounts, then you'll probably be okay for the most part. So in terms of performance, that pretty much covers it up. Now,